Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Sunday, July 31st, around 9 p.m. Mountain Time, 2022. We have a massive seismic swarm happening in the North Atlantic, just on the west coast of Iceland and out to sea. And that is the big story. But we also have some space weather coming in with a sea flare firing off from the limb and the next peak in space weather happening next week. Now let's talk about another big story. Scientists say temperatures are getting hotter faster than their tools can calculate. Keep calm. It's nonsense time. Now, what are they talking about? Don't they have thermometers? And if we come over and look at the UAH satellite-based temperatures of the global atmosphere, we can see that the June temperature is the same. Well, it's lower than the 1998 temperature in June at the same time. So, what in the world are they talking about? They're making things up. That's what they're doing. Heat, flooding, severe storms, and fire weather to start off the week, which, by the way, is the depth of summer. This is the peak summer temperatures and the peak summer heat, and many people just aren't experiencing that right now. Dangerous heat and record high temperatures are expected Monday in the interior northwest to the northern and central plains, but flooding will be possible in a couple of spots here, especially Kentucky and those places that are already saturated. Severe storms are possible in the Ohio Valley, and critical fire weather conditions are likely in Montana. While we have huge blazes happening, we have wild weather in Estes Park. And let's take a look at the hail that fell down there. A storm that hit the town late Wednesday into Thursday. Look at the hail piling up in Estes Park. Absolutely insane. And there's some pretty good video.
Big storms in the mountains are a common thing, but hail like this, like they saw in Estes Park, that's pretty rare. Crews work to shovel away all the hail, and many of the parts where it piled up in spots like Elkhorn Avenue. Kids kind of had some fun with it, though. 9 News reporter Luis De Leon is in Estes Park for us right now. And Luis, towns out there are used to storms, but last night that was something else.
Yeah, Kim, this is also one of the busiest times of the year right now for visitors to come to Estes Park. So a town spokesperson told me that they put more crews on standby for responding to emergencies because there's so many people in the town right now. Not too much damage from last night from what we could personally see. Really just a mess and a lot of cleanup going on. But it does pose, or does rather serve a reminder for some of the dangers that this wet weather can pose. All of this may not be what Estes Park's visitors.
Oh my God, look at the danger.
Coffee.
I like the name.
So we have some hail happening overnight as storm dumps mounds of hail over northern Colorado. Take a look at this guy. He's just having fun in the hail. You know, it's 70 degrees outside and you're covered in this ice. So not a very difficult job to take care of. This is actually pretty fantastic. It looks like a business park here. But they got absolutely buried in over a foot of hail here in the business park. So this is just a sign of the times, as predicted. Now let's get back to some of the more severe issues that we predicted years ago. Increased cosmic rays would lead to epic flooding. The 500 to 1,000-year flood would become commonplace. And again, we're seeing that again. Kentucky floods. The death toll now at 28. Everything is gone. Floods unleashed by torrential rains in eastern Kentucky have killed at least 28 people, including 4 children. Governor Andy Beshear said on Sunday as authorities work to provide food and shelter for thousands of displaced residents. Some homes in the hardest hit areas were swept away after days of heavy rainfall that Beshear has described as some of the worst in state history. And there doesn't seem to be many good pictures on that article to cover. But the next big story, California is now battling the worst wildfire this year as flames scorch more than 51,000 acres. And California Governor Gary Newsom declared a state of emergency on Saturday, which is Saturday in Pagosa, by the way. Now, California is battling its worst wildfire this year with more than 51,000 acres burned and evacuations mounting. Chaotic weather is threatening to make matters worse. Crews battling the McKinley fire in Northern California were bracing for thunderstorms and hot, windy conditions that created the potential for additional fire growth Sunday. But good news, And let me just show you that position of the McKinley fire here up on the state line. So let's pan it out here. Here's Oregon. Here's Northern California. There's the McKinley fire. And there happens to be another fire reported, China too, just to the west. But the McKinley fire is quite significant and burning rapidly towards, well, there's some cities there. We got Horse Creek. We got Eureka, Scott Bar, and Hamburg. So the predominant wind is going to be to the east, so it should move this way towards Hornbrook and Eureka. And Montauk, look at that's a big city. These are big areas. So hopefully they can get some containment on it. And with the drought monitor showing that it's not really in that severe of a drought up in that region, that's good news because we have a little bit of precipitation coming in exactly on that spot. In fact, about 1.25 inches is going to fall there in just the next few days. And if we could just roll this through, you could see how that rain is going to fall directly on that fire. So that's good news. They're worried about it starting more fires, but that northern tip, especially where the fire is in Northern California there, is going to get rain, and that's good news. Bad news is increase of seismic activity in Jewell County, Kansas. Right on the state line between Nebraska and Kansas, a little west of where the Republican River cuts through the state line there has been some major activity. And, well, scientists are baffled. Scientists with the Kansas Geological Survey are trying to figure out why there have been an increased earthquakes in the Nebraska-Kansas border. And they probably did the same thing I did. I went and I looked at the frac tracker, and I saw how disgusting Kansas and Oklahoma actually is with over 1 million wells. But right here in the location that is in question, and let's blow up that map, right here in the Republican River, not a single well or deep injection well exists. There are millions of other places that we could explain away as a frac quake, but this particular region, well, we're going to have to go look at the river. A lot of the rivers that flow in this region are flowing along fault lines, and that's where that quake happened to happen. And according to the geologists in this region, it could be seismic activity associated with new tectonic movement in the region. Now, the first thing that pops into my mind is an uptick towards a next New Madrid. Yes, a next New Madrid quake. It's so close to that region that, well, it's anyone's guess what is happening in the Wicked Witch of the waste state of Kansas. But has nothing to do with fracking, which is good news. Now let's come over here and see a little bit more what the scientist said. Miller said he believes that the first quake felt on July 17th was the main shock, and the most recent one was an aftershock. He said it's not common to have back-to-back quakes happening near the border, but it's something that's happening more often now. The team at Kansas Geological Survey are questioning what is triggering the quakes. And Miller said, the question is, what is the catalyst? Well, it could be the magnetic excursion. It could be the change in the magnetosphere. We don't know, he said. He didn't say that earlier stuff. He just said he don't know. They don't know. More than likely, the significant increase in seismicity has to be related to pressure changes in the crust. The tectonics don't change that rapidly, especially intercratonic here in the middle of a plate. The Earth changes, but it takes millions of years for the Earth to change significantly. Now, what if that whole paradigm, the idea that the Earth takes millions of years to change, is wrong? And as a catastrophist myself, or a catastrophic geologist, we believe that rapid change is possible at any moment, especially stress fields. So we're going to keep a close eye on the state line between Nebraska and Kansas as, well, frac quakes are not causing the seismicity, so it is of concern. Of concern as well as a massive C flare, top of the peak, almost an M flare, but the reason I say it's massive is because it was behind the limb, behind the Earth, and it was so powerful that it sent, well, let's take a look at the magnitude of this flare. I'm over here at Solar Flare or Solar Ham, and I just clicked on that graphic. It brings me right over to NOAA's GOES X-ray flux. And then you can come scroll down here and see the maximum. It was a C 9.3 flare, no threat to Earth whatsoever. That C 9.3, no threat to Earth. And that's because, well, the eruption occurred at C 9.3 was observed behind the east limb, and that was at 2309 UTC. due to the source location being out of direct view of Earth. And this event was likely an M flare or greater, and a coronal mass ejection is likely, definitely happening here, but being shot completely away from Earth. Now, there will be some residual power that loops back, as far as we know, because of the Enlil spiral and the nature of power in the universe, especially our solar system. But it will be insignificant as far as geomagnetic storm related. But we are going into the next peak. Now, we predicted the peak for geomagnetic storms to happen back on the 18th, and we were exactly right to the day. And the next peak is going to be happening from 7 days from now to 14 days from now. So exactly a week from now to the end of 2 weeks from now will be the next peak, as the daily solar wind is showing a very particular pattern of ebbs and troughs. And we just got done the trough, and now we're back straight up. So we should expect solar wind speed to get up 600-700 kilometers per second in the next few days as these active regions turn around the limb. And so by 7 days from now, we should be in geomagnetic storm once again, based on just the data we're looking at. This is not fancy science. This is observational science. Now, the importance of that is the role of solar and geomagnetic activity in endothelial activation and inflammation in the NAS cohort. Now, that may seem like gobbledygook and gibberish to you, but I'm going to break it down in layman's terms. This is a new paper coming out on the 26th, just 5 days ago, that is the first study ever to investigate the association between solar and geomagnetic activity and circulating biomarkers of systemic inflammation. Now, if you don't know, inflammation is the #1 cause of most disease in the human body. And if there's a direct connection between geomagnetic activity, i.e. solar storms, and inflammation, well, the period we're going into is going to wreak havoc on the human population. And the conclusion of the study is, yes, they're directly related. Now, we've known for decades that geomagnetic storms can cause myocardial infarction. These are heart attacks and other risks, especially ischemic. So this is the first study to just cover the topic of inflammation. So it can flare up your diabetes. It can flare up your arthritis. It can flare up multiple things. Not only geomagnetic storms, but the weakening magnetosphere. So this is something that if you suffer from inflammatory disease, you really want to take heed with. Read the paper. Now, let's get over to some seismic updates. 2022, Manawatu and Hawke's Bay, slow slip activity. There are slow slip earthquakes happening in both areas. Not scary. This will not, hopefully won't cause a major eruption, and that's the good news, because the data set they're showing is showing that these slow slip events are displacing the energy safely. And so that's a good piece of news for New Zealand. Seismic update. Finally, an Iceland quake at 5.4 in Vogar. Now, that's been upgraded twice, from 5.2 to 5.3 to now 5.4 is the official number. No, we have a moderate uptick in moderate quakes, 5 magnitude around the block, a deficit of small quakes around the world, and no large quakes, which is good news, because a lot of that stress is being well released right here in Iceland. And here you're looking at the whole country picture, where you can see now it's been 24, 36 plus hours now, 38, 39 hours since the seismic swarm started, and the North Atlantic is on fire. The majority of the big quakes are offshore. There's about an equal number of large quakes offshore as onshore, but they're all centering around that Fagradalsfjall, Glendingalda area where the last eruption occurred, and just a little east of there. Now, what we're going to bring up here is a new quake map. This is live quakes happening as they go, and we'll leave you links below here where you can see the live progression of the quakes and the magnitude over any time frame that you're looking for. Now, you're looking at 24 hours, and this is a massive amount of quakes happening off of Iceland in the last 24 hours. Not only that, we have amazing live streams coming to you and certainly not light in Iceland. So let's go to the actual. That was earlier today. This is what it looks like right now as they're monitoring, and we are monitoring from dozens of sites, all the potential eruptive areas. This is the original eruption last year, and this is some of the magma field. So we have all the potential places, especially by Kelir, this mountain right here. And that's where the major quakes are happening, between this mountain and this lava field. This is where that strip of volcanic activity is happening right now. This is where we probably would expect the volcano to re-erupt anytime soon. And these are all live streams from Iceland. And we'll link you to all of them below as we wait, well, for the next eruption to occur. I mean, just take a look at the activity here. Just moments ago, we had another 4+ magnitude. That's the first one in about 8 hours after the 5.4 occurred earlier today during my live stream. So the activity is not receding. It is increasing, and we are keeping a close eye on it because it appears as if something, well, is imminent. Now, the first of its kind video shows how giant squid hunt their prey deep in the ocean. And if you thought it would be creepy, well, you were right. And so let's just watch a little bit of this. Take a look at this footage. Giant squid at depth, first ever recorded, trying to feed on this fish right here. And then we have these large trilobite-looking crustaceans, sand fleas, and a giant squid coming in here. Now, how big are these crustaceans? They're probably 8, 10, 12, maybe even 14 inches. Kind of like a horseshoe crab type creature. But fascinating nonetheless, as the most elusive squid, and probably, we have audio, is going to try to eat the monitor itself now. Here it comes, very creepy. And it reaches out and it touches stuff. This is a very smart creature. It's been alive for millions, tens, hundreds of millions of years, the octopus, and probably is far more advanced than humans and can communicate potentially with alien worlds. Who even knows? But that's how the creature has remained elusive, because it's, well, pretty frickin' smart. Now, remnants of an uncontrolled Chinese rocket re-entered the atmosphere over the Indian Ocean, and people are pissed. China has not been telling the world about its dangerous re-entry of all this space debris. Just a few months ago, a huge object that could have taken out tens of thousands of people in a major city was allowed to re-enter uncontrolled, and nobody knew where it was going. But thankfully, there's an 80% chance of it hitting the ocean every time. So they just take the risk. But when will the risk become a liability? That's my question. What's your answer?
A flying car combines the best aspects of a passenger car.
All right, I apologize. We had to deal with that nonsense cutting in. But here is the story about the uncontrolled Chinese rocket re-entering the atmosphere, and that China, well, they just don't give a...
Developing now, debris from a 23-ton Chinese rocket booster just hurtled uncontrollably back to Earth. Skywatchers on social media have been posting videos of what some experts believe could be images of the rocket booster burning up in the atmosphere over Malaysia, but CNN cannot confirm the veracity of those images. What we do know from U.S. Space Command is that the booster re-entered Earth's atmosphere over the Indian Ocean a short time ago. It had been in orbit for less than a week after delivering a new module to China's space station, and this is not the first time that China has been accused of improperly handling space debris. And joining me now is Jonathan McDowell, astrophysicist at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Physics. Jonathan, great to see you again. You've been following the movements of this debris, and I mean, what's your sense of where it landed? Do you think there were any areas on dry land where people are?
Now, I just want to throw in a caveat here. The only reason I'm showing you this CNN footage is because the CNN stooge providing it is such an idiot. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. But the astrophysicist that he asked to come on, well, it's the top in his field. So this is the interview we want to hear, period. So let's finish it.
That we're in danger in any moment during all of this. What's your take on all this?
Right. Well, we do know now that the rocket re-entered over Sarawak in Malaysia at the eastern end of the Indian Ocean. And so it came in kind of over the capital of Sarawak, heading east, and probably the debris hit the surface a few hundred miles east of there. It's not clear yet whether it hit actually on the island of Borneo or into the sea. And so we'll have to wait until anyone, it's great to get these videos, which I think are authentic, of the thing breaking up in the sky. But what we really want to know is, did any pieces actually end up sitting on the ground? And so that may take a little while longer for the reports to filter back.
And why is it so hard to figure out where this kind of debris is going to land? I feel like this comes up every now and then, and we're all sort of, helplessly, looking up into the sky, almost out of a scene from Don't Look Up, wondering where the rocket is going to land. Why don't we have more control over the situation than this?
Right. Well, normally when we put a big rocket in orbit, we have a restartable engine and dive it into the ocean, a particular place under control. But this Chinese rocket doesn't do that. It's just left in orbit. It's at the mercy of the upper atmosphere winds. At some point, it breaks up and re-enters, but you can't predict when that's going to be in advance. And because it's traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, if you're an hour out in when you guess it's going to break up, you're 17,000 miles out in where it's going to land. And so it's an intrinsically hard problem.
It certainly is, and this is not the first time that China has allowed space debris to fall to the Earth like this. Is this a matter of China not caring where its debris is going to land from outer space? Is it a matter of their capabilities are just not where the rest of the world is? What's going on?
Yeah, I think they just are not as concerned about public risk. Now, to be fair, we've had stuff re-enter from U.S. satellites. There was a piece of a SpaceX Dragon ship that crash landed in Australia just a week or so ago. But they're much smaller objects that we allow to re-enter. No other country leaves these 20-ton things in orbit to re-enter in an uncontrolled way. And so that's just on China for designing its rocket that way and not taking the measures that other countries do to prevent that happening.
Now, here's the reason why that is key. Because when you get above 14 to 16 tons, as far as space debris is concerned, then you have the potential for hitting the surface of the Earth. Most of the space debris that NASA allows to fall to Earth is tiny chunks, just a few tons, and they have almost 100% guarantee that they will burn up completely in the atmosphere during re-entry. China doesn't care. These massive, and the more dense they are and compact and the higher weight they are, the chances of them burning up are reduced exponentially. So a 20-ton piece of space junk from China has almost a 100% likelihood of hitting Gaia, Mother Earth. And they just don't give a So there's that. Plus, we're about to go to war. Now, amateur astronomers' image of a rare double aurora may unlock its secrets. We've been seeing unique auroras emerge out of nowhere for the last decade. The last 5 years, it's been ramping up. We've had Steve, and now we have the first ever occurrence of two different kinds of aurora at the same time. The red aurora and the green has never been witnessed ever. And people have been looking at auroras for quite some time, just not scientists. There are photographers. There's everyone up in the auroral belt. There are hundreds of thousands of people that can witness these things. Yet, this is the first time we've seen red and green together. And it's, well, spectacular. And short-lived, by the way. Now, astrophysicists and others have been unable to explain What makes the red aurora? Now, doesn't that seem like elementary? Like potentially it would be just a simple ion or an atom creating that color, similar to fireworks? And yes, that could be the case. There is many speculating. Notice how the green aurora is much different. And let's open this up to get a better view and blow it up for the masses and really get a good look at this. And what you can see that's happening in the red aurora as opposed to the green or the neon, however you want to call it. I like chartreuse. It's one of the best colors for catching bass, this chartreuse in the middle of the summer. But let's go to the red aurora that has only ever been witnessed this time for the first time ever. It is performing a picket fence type scenario here. Now, the picket fence is typically purple. And what this shows me is that our weakening magnetosphere is changing the visual dynamics of humans on Earth. In fact, some scientists speculate that at one point the entire Earth was covered in a plasma that was more red than anything, and it's called the Red Dawn. And this may have been as early as prior to the Younger Dryas event. And it may be that humans on Earth have only seen stars recently, but that seems ludicrous because of the fact that we are aware of the precession of the equinoxes. So it kind of poo-poos all the electric universe models of the Saturnian alignment and all that nonsense happening recently. But it doesn't disallow it to happen in further antiquity, maybe 400,000 years ago, or further than that. And we're actually still have historical accounts of the things that happened in the night sky 500,000 years ago. Mind blown. Now, artificial intelligence has discovered an alternative physics. I'm going to break this down real quick, and it's insane. AI is so smart, it's smarter than humanity. And now when they just say, here, AI, this is the question that was posited, please tell us what physics is. It comes up with a completely different idea. You know what E equals mc squared is? The complete bullshit narrative from Einstein that the mainstream holds on to, and that the trillions of dollars spent looking for dark matter and dark energy because it's a failed model. Well, AI said the first iteration when it looked to explain physics, it said, you're wrong. And so guess what? Even AI knows we're wrong. That's how stupid science is. Now, more stupidity with the climate, green agenda, New Deal, bullshmeckery. We've done some exposés on the Great Garbage Patch that not many people watched. But it's a fallacy. Even one of the top organizers of Greenpeace, Patrick Moore, has made those accusations that the Great Garbage Patch doesn't even exist. And he's right. It can't be seen from the ocean. It can't be seen from land. And it can barely be seen by sampling. But when they did go out there finally with trillions of dollars in Green New Deal cash, in 2018, they found that the majority of the debris was fishing nets. But in the paper, they said 50% of the other debris was human waste. Now, the problem with the paper was that they were collecting each sample. A single fishing net weighs 6 tons in this recovery. How much does a single plastic bottle weigh? Like a microgram. And in the first study in 2018, they were calculating each object. So 40% of the objects were from the fishing industry and 53% were from humans on land. Now, if you looked at the actual data, 98.9% of the weight of the debris was from the fishing industry and just 1% was from humans on land. And that is the deception, the non-science going on. But It's being debunked now because they're actually collecting the trash. And here's an update on July 27th. After 45 days in the notorious Great Garbage Patch, another cargo ship hauling, well, hundreds of thousands of pounds of garbage, guess what they found? Take a look at this to the right here. They found 99.9% nets. Look at this, all nets. Look at the boat, all nets. I don't even need to dispute this. This is the debris coming out from the boat. Not a single plastic bottle, not a single Tide bottle, nothing that you would throw out in your trash on shore showed up in this lot. It's very telling. The mainstream is full of shit. It's all lies and deception. 1984 is a true story, and you are living it. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. As the dystopian future, well, is revealed before your very lives, what will you do to prepare? Are you growing food? Are you stockpiling? Do you have beans and bullets and silver? I hope you do. The shit is about to hit the fan. And that's a boom.